so can the federal grants. But if we could build either partnership or grants we can make curriculum bags out of the preschool that we drop off to each of the child care centers, just so they know what we're doing, and then they can use those things. Another idea that I've had is to look at your town reports and track your births and drop off age-appropriate reading materials to families. I also found Laconia School District has a partnership going on right now with some businesses where they offer parenting classes to families in the area about literacy and having students ready for kindergarten. So what I would recommend is that I'll continue to research those things, and then what my comment was to Dr. Godomsky is if I have to do a sustained 10 or 15 hour project, let's wait till July when it's a little quieter after extended school years off the ground and I have some focus time. Right now it's a little busy, and we'll see what we can pull in for ideas. And as I think in the future, we're doing the special education study right now, but we could also include the boards. We could have a section of it have to be about kindergarten readiness, even though that isn't special education. And then there's a communication conduit back to the boards from the 3 members of that committee.
Okay.
No, we already have child find, right?
You have child find
Which
services.
is our 3-year-olds that we usually start with, right?
Actually,
3 and 4?
so the way it's set up in the state of New Hampshire is early supports and services covers 0 to 3.
Okay.
There's 3 parts to special education. That's the first part, is birth to age 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we already have some interface with those people when kids come at the age of 3.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, we have child find for ages 3 to 5.
Right.
So that's the notices, the postings,
Right.
the child check clinics.
So we're working with kids that we already find may have some needs.
Special education needs, but there's also, if you're, the benefit to trying to not tell child care centers what to do, but to provide them examples of what different preschools do, is that kids will have a tendency to enter on a more level field
I've seen it before.
if they
Right.
have those experiences.
Right.
One of the pieces of data that I looked at was the step-by-step preschool kids in Nottingham, and where they're entering in the kindergarten screening. The good news is they're evenly distributed, so that's, you don't want everybody at the bottom. You would expect that if you have a disability, you wouldn't be at the top, but they really are quite spread out. So, that's a good piece of information for the preschools to have. It speaks highly. But a lot of it is collaboration. So, when a kid turns age 3 and they're identified and they're in a child care center, we generally take those students into the preschool, but we could look at a more flexible model as time went on, where we're just giving the related services, and the preschools are, taking care of the educational piece, the preschool. So.
I think that that's a great idea. I didn't like the little comment about going into homes or when people are watching births and dropping off information. I think it's intrusive, and I think people will take that in a negative way.
Well, I think there's a way to, first of all, going into homes, we already do that.
At birth?
As part of child, no. I
Okay.
didn't say going into homes.
You just said keeping track
I
of
said
births.
you can look in your town reports and you can look at your births and understand what families you have
Right.
and try to get, or you can do it through a pediatrician's office.
Right.
There's different ways to do it, and I think offering it to people isn't as intrusive as just automatically doing it, but I think it'd be okay to do that. Going into homes, now I didn't say that, but I will tell you that child find services, sometimes that does happen within the home.
Well, when a child is identified and needing special services, I understand that. That's different than what I thought you were saying.
Yeah, okay, so we're
I
clear.
thought you were going to, people have a child and you're going to give them things.
Yeah, no.
Tell them how to teach their child.
I
And
didn't
it's like, no, don't do
No,
this.
it's a little less sophisticated like that. It's like if you had a birth, you
Yeah.
have a book bag that's 0 to 1 books.
Right.
And then you trade them in at age 1 for the 2-year-old stack. You trade them in, and it exposes them to literacy.
Right.
So,
Business partnerships, what kind of money are you talking there?
I haven't priced out, well, I'd have to look at the data. I'd have to look at the births. I'd have to look at the rates. I'd have to look at,
Well, I'm just asking
trying to figure
because
it out.
we have one advantage or a couple of advantages in Northwood where we actually have some business.
Right.
And the other 2 towns don't have. I have a report that I just got. I think 87% of our town is residential and 13 is business, our tax base. And Nottingham is like 90 and 10, something like that. And Stratford is like 96 and 4. You know, there's almost no businesses over there. So, you know, we do have some businesses like Harding Metals, Hannaford's, you know, where we could go looking for some money.
Right, we could also talk to the United Way.
Yep.
I don't think they do a lot out this way. I know they're Cinco Center in Portsmouth, more active. I mean, it's really trying to get everybody else together and have a discussion and a presentation on, you know, this is your workforce in 15 years.
Any more questions on K? So that's kindergarten, that's what K is. Kindergarten readiness report discussion. Good. Thank you, Scott. Dr. Bob, you're up.
On page 19, you have the personnel report. First one is a nomination of Nancy Gedker for the receptionist webmaster position that you approved in concept last time, and I told you I'd bring you back some figures. And again, this position kicks in July 1st, so it's going to stay status quo through the end of June, and then July 1st it's going to expand, and that comes in under the budgeted amount.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the nomination of Nancy Getker for the position of receptionist and webmaster at $12.88 an hour, 7.5 hours a week, for a total of $25,213.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Dave?
Yeah, could somebody explain to me 1288 an hour times 7.5 hours equals 25,000? Is that supposed to be 37.5 or 27.5?
Oh, sorry. So that's annually $25,213 is what it comes out to. $12.88 an hour, 7.5 hours a week, 52 weeks.
Doesn't compute.
7.5 hours a day, isn't it?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is a week.
Couple
Okay,
weeks.
that's
Oh,
right.
okay.
Sorry, that's my mistake.
All right.
7.5 hours a day.
Did my
Okay.
motion say week? Or
I
did
think
say
it did.
Okay, I'll amend it.
Sorry.
Thank you, Karen.
You're right, Dave. That doesn't add up.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Thanks. Fred Wolf I'm bringing forward to you for the grants coordinator. You'll see his paperwork in there.
It's pretty.
Very qualified individual. We are going to, I had a conversation with him about the $25 an hour and 14 hours a week. And my question was, can we get it done in 14 hours a week? If not, then we would have to kind of re-advertise for a little bit less than $25 an hour, but then we're going to get somebody less experienced. So I talked to Fred about that, and we're going to do this until the end of the year. That's 9 weeks. And if his experience is allowing him to complete the task in 14 hours a week, I'm going to bring his name back to you for consideration for next year. If we find that it's not working out, then we may have to readjust. But I'm pretty confident that at 14 hours a week with his experience, we'll be able to get that done pretty well.
Any discussion?
Is he going to be writing grants?
No. No, his position is the same as it's been. It's a grant coordinator that basically oversees and manages all of our entitlement grants.
Actually, it was a grant writer position. At one point, yeah.
Was it?
Yes.
It was.
I know since I've been here, it's been the grants coordinator. So was it reduced at all, or?
The person was working 20 hours a week. They were a grant writer.
Okay.
I don't know at what point it got changed over to coordinator, but we need somebody to actively pursue grants.
It does say that he wrote and received numerous state competitive grants in his achievements. So it does look like he knows how to write grants. He has written grants, but does he understand that that would be the job? Maybe you need to.
Oh, we've had that discussion. It's a grants coordinator position right now, and this is a discussion that we have. If you recall back when we were doing the budget for this year, talking about do we want a grant writer? Do we want to extend the position? Do we want it full time? And that was turned down. That was not what the board wanted. So it is a grants coordinator position right now, limited to the hours and the pay that we have available.
So is he capable of writing grants? It says he's written grants.
Huh?
If we were to change that for next year, because this is only for 9 weeks, I see.
Well, you'd have to change it for the next budget year, which means you're 1 year out because you did not budget for it next year. I would encourage you to have that discussion again when we're going through the budget process. Absolutely. You know, if we can have a substantial amount of money there to hire somebody to write grants and explore grants. But that was the discussion we had during the budget process, and the board decided to not pursue that.
I agree with Bob. There was a number of positions, 3, maybe 4, that came into us as options. And as a board, we voted, talked about it, looked at it, and voted. Grant writer is something that I would really like to have, but I was on the losing end. It's something we're working on in Northwood because we have a little money. We could certainly look at this. The fact of the matter is we do have some money coming in, for instance, on the insurance thing. We can re-look at the budget and see, but it does take money. We have to coordinate the grants. We have to do that. They're federal grants. We have to do that.
Northwood's giving it a trial run right now until the end of the school year, hiring a person to explore grants, set up a kind of an outline of their district and see if it's feasible. And then at the end of this year, they're going to reevaluate that to see if it's financially feasible or not.
Yeah, I believe there's money out there personally, but it takes some work to get it.
Did we say that we were looking like we were going to have a surplus this year? With the SAU budget?
We will have a surplus because
Yes, but we're going to spend.
Oh, but you're right, making
That
up.
was
That was
preschool.
preschool. Okay.
But that's certainly, but that we have a surplus from the SAU coming into this year,
Okay.
and at the end of this year, we will still have a surplus in the account. So it's certainly a discussion that the board could have if it chooses to in the summertime about exploring that type of a direction.
Okay, so if we did have the surplus and we find that he is wonderful and he is able to write grants, at least we could put part of that portion of the surplus to maybe hire him for a few months longer
You certainly could.
as a grant writer.
You
Do we
could.
know that he can do that?
It says it in here in the written grants, it says it.
Yeah, $100,000 grant, $75,000.
Yeah, right on the achievements and awards. Wrote and received numerous.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that he has the talent to do that. Whether he wants to go, to full time, I know he does not. But extending the position, if it were to work till the end of the year really well, and we're pleased and he's pleased, you certainly could have that discussion.
And there's always the possibility of not full-time, but 30 hours.
Yeah, or 20 of them.
So anyway, Dave?
Yeah, I would like us to have that discussion in May, because in June, he's gonna be all ready to go, and if we start the discussion, we don't have him.
Yeah.
So maybe for the next meeting, if we ask for some, this is what happened, we ask for these things, and then we find out, wow, it's gonna cost that much?
Right.
Whoa, the towns won't approve that, that's what happens. So let's do it again, let's say, all right,
I don't think he's going anywhere, Dave. I mean, I think Fred is, he's got other irons in the fire, and he likes the idea of working part-time if we offered to extend the position to 20 hours. He would probably consider it. I don't know whether he would take it or not. I don't want to speak for Fred, but so I don't think that we would lose anything by running it through the end of the year and then having a discussion at the summer meeting. I don't.
I'm thinking I'd rather plan ahead, and if we don't like them, we don't offer them anyway, but if we like them, we've already had a discussion and say, hey, we want you for the next, I don't know, to me it seems to be do it ahead of time, but that's all right, whatever.
Well, if you want it on the next agenda, I can put it on the next agenda, either way.
Whatever the board, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? So we need a motion on approving Fred Wolf as the SAU grant coordinator.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the nomination of Fred Wolf for the SAU grant coordinator at $25 an hour, 14 hours a week, and he will work 9 weeks for a total of $3,150.
Second.
Motion and a second, any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain.
Nope. You're gonna abstain? One abstention.
Okay, would you like that on the next agenda, or the summer agenda, or what's your pleasure?
I think if we have surplus, where we could add, if we could use some of our surplus to add some hours to his, already what we just agreed upon, to focus on writing grants, if it were another 10 hours a week, to write grants, I think that would be,
This position 2 years ago was called grant writer, and it was 20 hours a week.
Mhm.
That was only 2 short years ago.
who did the grant coordinating?
That person did, they did
They
everything.
did everything.
We were told that even though the title was writer, essentially the work being done, at one point we were told that it did not, that it was really coordinating. We still weren't getting the writing that we were looking for. So it's been a long time, we've been hoping for that. So we should think about it as
Right.
forward, get it done.
There were one,
It's an absolute must to get grants.
Tim?
I'm sorry, Dave.
Well, yeah, one other reason I like to get it done ahead of time is because in the past, we've been taking July off and sometimes August, so we ain't gonna have a meeting sometimes.
Well, there's some issues coming up that we're gonna discuss in a little bit regarding the meetings that we have through the summer. Do you wanna have that discussion now, and then we can talk more about the grant writer real quick?
No, just, we have
I guess I'm hearing that there's interest. I'll put it on the
Yes,
next
that's all I
agenda.
was.
We'll have it on the next agenda.
We have
All
a-
right,
You
we'll
got
have
it.
it on the next agenda.
Okay. SAU goals, another item that came from the management committee meeting. What my plan I'm going to bring back at the end of the year a final overview of the goals that I set for myself this year. Go over the NASDAQ report that was done a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, and find out where we are in relation to the NASDAQ report, and then bring back some goals to you for further discussion. So if there's anything else that you would like me to include in those goals, or anything that comes to mind for further discussion, just let me know, and I'll include those when I bring it back for a final review for the board.
And when will you be bringing that to?
I'd like to do it at we're going to talk about meetings, but probably the June meeting, so we can have a good discussion and have it in place as we start the school year.
So it seems to me that what we should be doing is perhaps each board have a discussion amongst themselves, because not all members are here, as to what goals, if they have any additional goals that we want to put on the SAU or Dr. Bob, and then we'll get those all incorporated into it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could have a discussion at each board, and I'll bring that up with Scott, because he's not here, Bolger, then we can kind of coordinate it all to Dr. Bob.
Do you think that maybe we could also have just a highlight for each board of the NASDAQ report goals, so that we can look at those at our own board meetings to make sure we don't duplicate some of the things that we already know?
I can send you the whole report if you'd
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, because I mean, this has been a while ago.
You guys don't have it?
I think everybody's got it.
I had mine a year ago. I don't think I still have mine.
Let me send it out to everybody.
We also, at the subcommittee, we were talking about potentially trying to get into more strategic planning, maybe having a work session around that. Looking at some longer range goals and areas where we want to kind of try to work together. I don't know if the boards are interested in that.
Strategic planning?
Strategic planning, if you can get the School Board Association to come in and sit with you for a session and work through those kinds of things, if we have an interest in it.
And I think, Bob, I remember when we interviewed you, and I went up to North Conway to meet with you, or Conway to meet with you, that you had done strategic planning for the district. And I was so impressed with that booklet. I think you created a booklet.
Yep.
Right? I would love for us to take a look at that to see like the type of thing that you've done. Did you do that with a different organization coming in, or did
Well,
you?
I did a couple of different ones. When I was with Shaker Regional, I was on 2 separate 5-year plans that they had done strategic planning, and then up north there was a Student Success Task Force specifically geared for reducing the dropout.
Okay, right.
So that's what was done. Down in Nottingham this past year, they went through kind of a mini strategic planning, kind of condensed, where they asked the public to come in, got the staff involved, and then set some goals and things. So that was a pretty nice process as well.
Yeah.
But it could just be an opportunity to brainstorm some things like grant writing and special ed coordination. Some of the things we're talking about here, we could give a little time to see what you think.
But I'll put that on each individual board agenda coming up for discussion and goals. So just be thinking about it. If there's anything specifically that you think we need to attend to here at the SAU, by all means, let us know.
Good.
C, meeting rotation discussion. There was a discussion about rotating the joint board meetings building to building, so you'd get a chance to see each other's buildings. If that's something that you're interested in doing, I can set up a rotation schedule so everybody will know where it's at for the year.
We've talked about this before, and it came back up at the management meeting. I personally think it's a really good idea. It gives each of us a chance to see what's going on. I particularly remember one visit to Stratford, and Debbie took us all around and showed us the new wing, and it was really kind of nice, and I would like to see us do more of that. So
Maybe more public would come.
yeah, maybe we can get more public, that if we say that it's where, we all seem to have a pretty good location to have it. So do you want to start doing that?
I think it's a great idea. Maybe if we kept our winter meetings here where they're centrally located, and then the rest of the year rotate. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Do you want to have a vote on it, or you just want Dr. Bob just to make up a schedule and start doing it?
We'll put front pieces.
All right, yeah.
Well, we're talking about,
Yeah.
we're talking about starting like the July meeting or for
No,
the
next
next
meeting.
year, or what do we?
Next meeting.
Oh, starting next meeting.
Next meeting.
All right,
If you're too old to drive, I'll drive you, David.
thank you.
Well, I'll do a schedule for the year and bring it to the next meeting, and then-
Debbie volunteered to be first.
there we go.
Okay.
Alphabetical.
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Reverse up.
The next thing on the agenda, New Hampshire School Board Association. Tim asked me to put that on there for some discussion.
The New Hampshire School Board Association is a pet peeve of mine. If you went and looked at all of the monies in towns and schools and SAUs, etc., that we're paying for all of the many associations that we belong to, this one I'm really questioning how much we get out of. And what I would like to suggest, and I could tell you a little story of what happened at the last meeting I went to, which started this discussion in my mind, and that is that it was mentioned at the meeting, both by Ted Comstock and then by the gentleman, I forget his name, that came in nationally, that school boards were losing their authority, and they gave both of them a discussion on that. And the second thing that came up at the meeting, at the end, they asked for questions, or did we have any ideas? So I presented, one of the issues that I would like to get into is a better knowledge of the financing, you know, and not the basic budget, but the MS 22s and 21s and all of that stuff. I'd like to have a better understanding. So I suggested that. So he suggested that I email him, so I did. And I asked him what we could do as far as helping nationally and the state make sure that legislation went through. And I expected an answer, something, you know, talk to your legislators, your senator, things like that. What I got, and I didn't bring it with me, but what I got was just continue educating your students in the most sterling way possible. I got a lawyer's answer, in other words. And so I would like to invite Ted here or somebody here to speak to us and tell us what they're doing for us for the money. We spend almost $4,000 in Northwood, so I assume the rest of you spend about the same. And I'd like to know, what are we getting for that, you know, and what we can get in the future. I've had some conversation with Dr. Bob, and he's shown me, and I've looked into a little further, where they get a lot of information from the New Hampshire administrators, whatever. You know, they really get a lot of help. And for the money we're spending, we should get a lot of help too, to be honest with you. So, does anybody mind if we invite them in, is the bottom line. You know, and bring up questions. It probably won't be at the next meeting, but at a meeting.
I think that's great. Now, is that the organization that we can actually ask and call for free legal advice? If we have a question,
Yeah, we do that. The two areas that I utilize them the most is Barrett Christina is their attorney, and he's always very responsive when I call him and ask him any questions, legal questions. And the other area is model policies. Any of the policy help that they have, they do a nice job at keeping their model policies to a point where, you know, they help us out that way. But those are the two biggest areas that I see that we utilize their services.
so how often do we call them for free legal advice? Because that's the thing that's expensive. If we can use them more rather than the other attorney who charges us.
Well, you know, that's a balancing act.
That's what I'd like to know.
That's a balancing act too, because you do have an attorney that knows all of the details,
Right.
and all of the background, and has that history of defending you. The stuff that I usually call Barrett about at the School Board Association is the more kind of broad, general decisions instead of, I would never call him for something that's personal and sensitive to your district.
Right.
I'm not going to share that stuff. But for the basic stuff I need on, district meetings or protocols at board meetings or things like that, yeah, I'll call him instead of, your legal pay $300 an hour.
Right. That's
We utilize that whenever we can.
something to figure out how often we use that legal service.
Yes.
Because that could add up, and that would be
Yeah,
worth
and-
it if it.
There might be some areas that, he could say, we have this available and you guys aren't using it,
Right.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'd like to sit down, we have a bit of an opportunity in January when each school district sends one person that gets to vote. More can go, but only one person gets to vote. But I think we have 153